Life as a self-employed person is, at least in terms of bureaucracy, significantly harder than simply being employed. You need to create ongoing bookkeeping, submit advance VAT returns, prepare summary reports, create a profit and loss statement or a balance sheet at the end of the year, and file an income tax return, a VAT return, and a trade tax return. And of course, you hopefully don't do this with paper and pencil. Even with Excel, you shouldn't do it, because Excel is not GoBD compliant. So, GoBD are the rules of the game that one must follow in Germany for accounting. And there are a whole variety of different software solutions out there that promise to help you effectively and efficiently handle all the financial, accounting, and tax bureaucracy in no time. The problem with most tools is that they indeed cannot do everything that a self-employed person needs to do. This means that one always needs a combination of several tools. While there is theoretically the possibility to do a lot online with Elster, anyone who has logged into Elster online will know that the whole process is painful. And there is a tool that is not very well known yet, but in my opinion it is very, very exciting, especially for small business owners. I am talking about Accountable. Accountable was built for small self-employments, and small does not necessarily mean living at the subsistence level, it means working alone. This applies to all solo self-employed people, to small business owners, freelancers, and also traders who need not maintain accounting records. If you as a trader make a profit, mates, and revenue, in a year, you do not need to create a balance sheet. Instead, a profit and loss statement is sufficient. And Accountable aims to build a comprehensive tool for everything from invoicing to tax declaration, providing a complete solution. Everything in one universe, no switching tools back and forth, no exporting and importing of data, and so on. Now, let's take a closer look at Accountable together, and then discuss whether it is recommendable, for whom it is actually suitable, and where there might be weaknesses. For that, I will take you along on my screen. We are on the homepage of Accountable, and we can already see that all taxes are taken care of. This means they view the entire topic of taxes in a much more comprehensive way than all the other tools I know. And we are simply not looking at the price on the pricing side. We can look at that later, but mainly the functionality. Here is a comparison table of the 3 different packages available. And we can already see that for taxes, we can handle income tax, advance VAT return, the summary report, trade tax declaration, and the income surplus calculation. There is someone who can help answer tax questions. They call it the tax coach USAND. It may also be an important note that there is a difference between a tax advisor and a tax coach. A tax advisor has taken a quite demanding exam, and the failure rate is incredibly high. He has liability insurance, which means that if a tax advisor gives incorrect advice, one has a right to compensation. And a tax coach can actually call themselves that like any other coach. Therefore, it's nice that there are people who are knowledgeable about taxes, but it must be clearly stated that you can also call yourself a tax coach if you want. So this is not a protected term, although it should be noted that Accountable works with tax advisors. This means that when we go to the homepage, you can already see that there are tax advisors who also work with clients of Accountable. This means that there are indeed tax advisors behind the scenes, but when you write to support, you won't get a response from a tax advisor, but rather from a tax coach, which is important to know. However, this is not a specific disadvantage for Accountable, as the same applies to the support from Sevdesk, Lexware, and Wieso Steuer. You never really get a response from a tax advisor, at least not usually. Instead, it is simply the software support that responds. And then there is a tax calculator, which I find quite interesting. The tax calculator calculates the expected tax burden for the current year because you know this. You pay your income tax quarterly and possibly advance trade tax, but you don't really know how much tax you need to pay for this year and whether you are overpaying or underpaying. And Accountable does this quite nicely. Accountable essentially shows you this, calculating the annual result and saying, well, we assume that you will probably earn this much this year, either by extrapolating the current results for the entire year or by entering your own numbers, your own estimate, and so on. So, I really find this tax calculator charming, but you can not only handle all the tax obligations, but also do accounting. This means you can create invoices, of course, write quotes, record expenses, which means you ultimately cover both sides, sending invoices and receiving invoices, and then, of course, categorizing them, which is essentially what bookkeeping involves. In bookkeeping, you write invoices, receive invoices, and need to record them in the bank. And this is also important because you can link bank accounts here, meaning you can simply connect your bank account from Deutsche Bank, Sparkasse, Kontist, N, or wherever to Accountable, and then you have the bank account transactions right here. You can also link your PayPal account. There is a data export available in case you want to work with a tax advisor, so you can get the data all at once. You have a smartphone app and a browser version, which means everything is in the cloud and is therefore synchronized anytime and anywhere. That's it for the basic functions for now. We will take a closer look at them shortly. First, let's examine the pricing model. Here, we can see that there is a free package available. With the free package, you can create invoices, you can record up to 5 expenses to track income and expenses. You can also connect the bank at least up to one bank account. And if you no longer have one, you can actually continue to use the whole thing for free in the future. The nice thing is that it already states up here that you can also send e-invoices. Starting in 2025, there will be an e-invoice obligation, which is a specific invoice format. And this is simply included in the free package of Accountable. And for all those who are really just a little self-employed on the side, writing 1 or 2 invoices a month or having an invoice every few weeks, and additionally want to account for their mobile contract and a desk in their home office, the free package is actually completely sufficient. If you then do a little more, the small business owner regulation is the choice for most of you. This means under the small business owner regulation, you avoid these VAT reports. You don't need to submit a VAT declaration, file a VAT return, and no VAT on your invoices. For these small business owners, Accountable has its own plan called the Small Plan, which costs $18.50 per month. Of course, like everywhere else, you pay a little less if you pay annually, but let's assume we pay monthly. Then as a small business owner, you pay $18.50. In this package, you simply have a few more options because you can actually handle your entire accounting here. You can write invoices, you can record expenses, even without limits. You can connect up to 5 bank accounts. I would like to see a small business owner with 5 bank accounts, so you have more than enough options. And the exciting thing is you can complete your business tax declaration, like your trade tax declaration, or in some scenarios, you may also need to file a value-added tax declaration. If you didn't know that as a small business owner you still have to file a VAT return in certain situations, then take a look at the video I linked in the top right. Honestly, this is an exception. In the past, small business owners submitted a sales tax declaration. This ended in spring 2024, Growth Opportunities Act. This means that you as a small business owner are no longer required to submit a VAT return once a year. What you need to do is file taxes. You can complete your tax return with Accountable. Important note, a number of scenarios that Accountable cannot cover. Here, you should definitely take a look beforehand before you decide at what Accountable actually cannot do. For example, income from rental and leasing, pension income, and so on. You should definitely take a look at this because if you have it, then Accountable can still be interesting and exciting for you as you can still create invoices, manage your accounting, and receive the income surplus calculation, but then you cannot file your income tax declaration through Accountable and would have to do it online via Elster, for example. You will find a whole series of tutorials on this channel. Feel free to check it out if you have to deal with Elster online, and then you have the opportunity to talk to support and so on. And when your business grows and you eventually become liable for VAT, meaning you have to issue VAT on your invoices, submit interim VAT returns, possibly consolidate reports, and of course also prepare a VAT return and a trade tax return, then the Pro package is the right choice for you. It costs $33.50 per month. And it can do all of that which you, as a VAT liable self-employed person, need to take care of. And if you take a look at the price of Accountable, it is approximately speaking in the price range where all other accounting programs are, tending to be just a little bit higher. What one must not forget is that Accountable is not just an accounting program. With Accountable, you can also complete your tax declaration once a year, and no other software can do this in the same way. This means that you still need a second software for the tax declaration, and when considering that, this price is definitely fair, tending to be cheaper than other offers. And so much for the theory for now. We will now just switch to Accountable and take a live look at the individual functions there. We are now in the dashboard of Accountable, and this is the screen we see when we log in for the first time. Here on the left side, we see our to-do list. So what do I need to take care of right now in the area of accounting, taxes, etc.? Here there are 2 bank transactions. There is a profit and loss statement finished to submit slowly for 2023. Then there is the income tax declaration for 2023 and so on. And when I click on it, it always jumps to the point where I can take care of it. That means I can now see the income expenditure statement, EUR, for 2023 here and can edit it directly. For 2023, we see, for example, he reviews the accounting and notices discrepancies here that I should check again, because here, for example, higher expenses than in the previous year are present in some categories, and some expenses appear to have been recorded twice, either accidentally or knowingly. These are points that I should take a closer look at. And he is of course checking many more things where there is a green tick. He says the whole thing is inconspicuous, and the red ticks I would work through accordingly. But let's go back to the home page. So this is my to-do list, which I simply work through regularly. Here on the left side below, I regularly receive tax tips. I actually find these tax tips at Accountable to be very, very good, because often you receive tax tips that are so general, and at Accountable they often fit perfectly with the 2001 things that I already have in my accounting. This means that you receive alerts at the left or right indicating that there are certain things you can still do. Accountable essentially learns from what is currently happening in my self-employment and then gives me appropriate tips. And that naturally ensures that all these tips are more relevant to me. In my opinion, that is the biggest problem with many other tax tips. I can give you 100 tax tips, but most won't be relevant, so no one will listen after the 3rd tip. That's the issue with the topic of taxes. Here on the bottom right side, I see the upcoming appointments and deadlines. I've set everything up to do my monthly VAT return, prepare a quarterly summary report, etc. And here it says, on November 11th, 2024, submit the sales tax for October. As on November 15th, make the trade tax prepayment for Q 2024. This means I can fully adhere to when I need to complete tasks. On the top right side here, I see the overview for the entire year. To be honest, this is not very meaningful for me right now because I have not yet done the accounting for this year. However, you can click on See More up here, and then I can also look at the year that I have already completed. Then I see here some nice bars for the individual months where I have made a profit, or in May, possibly a loss. And on the left side, I see the more familiar overview, which is simply the income surplus calculation in the overview. Revenue without VAT has been approximately. I can expand on that again. Then there is value added tax, which means the total revenue was approximately around. Then I had an entire spectrum of deductible costs, the input tax paid, and that ultimately leads to a profit before tax of what he is now calculating the tax on. I can also expand this, and then I see, so much trade tax, so much income tax I will likely have to pay for the year 2023. By the way, I can also disclose additional information about myself in the settings, e.g., whether I have children, if I am married, or other income impact the tax rate, and this estimate becomes more accurate. This is important. This is an estimate, not the final tax. For that, you need to file the tax return. But the whole thing provides a very good indicator of whether I am setting aside the right amount, too much or too little, which I find very, very exciting because ultimately, for me personally, the profit after taxes is decisive, as that is what I have to live on privately. And that was it with the homepage. On the left side, we now have the structure of what we actually need to work through monthly and quarterly. I have already said you can write invoices, receive invoices, and manage bank transactions here by clicking on Income. You can always see an overview of the respective invoices. Here I can view a summary that shows me the monthly revenues, the most important customers, and the status, meaning how much is still outstanding. Overdue. In my case, it is obvious that payments have not been made yet. I should take care of that. And I naturally have the option to write an invoice here. So I just click here, say Create Invoice. And then I have a simple invoice generator. I can change the colors, I can make it more subtle, round everything off, and so on. Later, it won't be that important when we send electronic invoices. So when we send a flagship or X invoice in the future, the layout of the invoice will matter less and less overall. I still have the function included here. What is much more exciting is that in the future you will also be able to create e-invoices through Accountable. This means that instead of downloading a PDF file, you will upload the corresponding Zugford or XML file. I can capture and edit the entire invoice simply by going to the respective fields, such as service date and creation date. I can add a logo, create customers, or simply select them if I have already created them, add line items, and so on. And that was essentially it for invoicing. The expense side looks relatively similar in structure. So here you can see a whole range of business expenses that I have already incurred. I can also have a look at the overview here, now for last year, and see what I spend my money on. Rent, IT equipment, tools, travel costs, bank fees, and I can see who the most important service providers and suppliers are, and so on. For me, it's my landlord, Freitag Immobilien GmbH. I bought IT equipment from Cyberport, also from Sony, Deutsche Bahn, and so on. This means it looks similar to the income page, and I can also upload thousands of more expenses here simply by dragging them in as a PDF. Or I can do everything through the smartphone app, which works too. Then everything is in here and I just need to categorize it. Let's take a look at how it all looks. Specifically, let's take a look at this train ticket. Here I can select the service provider, the supplier, and I can categorize everything. And this is how it looks. Here I could select travel expenses and then I would see other travel costs and so on. Or in this case, I will choose train travel. However, you can also select from the individual categories on the left side and simply search for what is available. I will choose train travel because it is the train. What I find very, very exciting are the little details that you see here and there in Accountable, which show that it has really been built for self-employed individuals. This is not software aimed at GmbHs, but really at solo self-employed individuals, sole proprietorships, freelancers, and traders. If you're not sure, can I actually deduct this? This question comes up for everyone at some point. I can click here and then see an overview of whether I can deduct it. I see a tax audit risk when I deduct these costs. Here it is asked how easy it actually is to deduct them, and I see a comparison to other self-employed individuals as many freelancers use Accountable. Reportedly, travel expenses of about $10 to $250 are deducted per month. The frequency of travel expense claims is 3 to 10 times per month, with 95% of all self-employed individuals claiming travel expenses and 64% of all self-employed individuals recommend doing so. And one can contribute to these percentages by saying, yes, I recommend deducting travel expenses, and I also deduct these travel expenses. And then there are a few hints here. He gives tax tips. Right at the right place. There is no long list of what I can deduct, but rather, what do I ultimately do? I upload a train ticket, can click on it, can deduct it, and receive exact information about what I just uploaded. 2001. If I upload a car rental invoice, I will see a different text displayed. If I upload a hospitality receipt, I will get a different help text. That means Accountable is really intelligent. It truly adapts the hints and help text to my situation. And then I can also see the sales tax amounts, and I can choose if with or without sales tax. Train journeys are subject to the reduced tax rate of 7%, so I get back 9.93 in a VAT return. In which VAT return should the VAT amount be considered? I can select it again here, and then I can save everything. This is how the categorization process works. In addition to outgoing invoices and incoming invoices, there is a third part that is important, and that is the bank. Here you can easily link multiple bank accounts. For example, if you have a Contist bank account, you simply enter Contist here and can easily link the Contist bank account. You can also upload credit card transactions as a CSV file, and then you need to link each transaction to the respective receipt, such as, so here is the payment receipt. I can click on it once and then see that this is the invoice from FinTech Solutions. I could edit it again here, but it obviously fits. The amount is correct, partner is correct, record all income, expenses, and assign account movements accordingly. And once you have done all of this, you can switch to the tax tab. The tax section is an overview of all obligations. This means that I can click on the entire year 2023, and here I will see all my submissions that I need to make for the year 2023, or more precisely, for the year 2023. In the first quarter, the VAT return, trade tax, income tax, VAT for February, VAT for March, and the summary report. Uncheck the box and it shows the tasks that I still need to complete. For example, the VAT advance return for January 2000 seems to have slipped through the cracks. I can click on Overview now and edit it here. There are higher expenses here that I could check again. Then it says Sony is higher. Of course, because Sony is a camera. That means I can confirm the whole thing? Yes, that is true. There are no irregularities. You can continue. 2001. And now I see the advance VAT return in the overview once again and can submit it directly to the tax office here, so the tax office receives the information immediately, and I am done with the advance VAT return. And the whole thing essentially works out the same way for the interim matters as it does for the annual ones. So let's go back to 2023 again. I prepare an annual financial statement and need a profit and loss statement, EUR. I can check now if anything is unusual. And if I say no, that all fits, I might just want to skip the whole thing and move on, then I see the income surplus calculation. When I hide the empty lines, everything becomes a bit clearer. And once it is verified, I can simply send it to the tax office here, just like with the income surplus calculation. And that's how it works with the income tax return, the VAT annual return for 2023, and the trade tax return. And with that, you have actually completed everything. You have fulfilled all legal obligations. There is another feature that I find quite exciting and Accountable, which is the AI assistant. It's like a chatbot similar to ChatGPT within Accountable. And the exciting thing is that the AI chatbot has obviously been trained with tax knowledge. This means it can answer tax-related questions very, very well. But he has access, if you allow, to your entire accounting for the year 2021, meaning your bank account, your invoices, and your expenses. And now you can ask him things, for example, which costs you can deduct, or if there are any irregularities with travel expenses, etc. For example, can I deduct my car from taxes? And then I simply get an answer here. And you can quickly get an overview of your accounting, because the AI assistant not only has tax knowledge but also has access to your documents, such as invoices and receipts. And I have been wishing for this for quite a while, and I am glad that it is here. It is still clearly AI, and AI can also be wrong sometimes with errors. This is always the case. I find it very, very exciting that they are already dealing with it, and I am very positively surprised by that. And with that, a warm welcome back, and now to the conclusion. I know, the whole thing probably sounded very positive across the board. However, if you do not belong to the customer group now, for example, if you have a capital company or are simply a trader and are subject to accounting obligations, which you will be if you make a profit in the year, then you should avoid Accountable, because you will really not be happy with it, and honestly, you will have more work switching between tools than with others. For you, I would then recommend other solutions such as Lexware Office or Sevdesk. I have also included reviews for both tools, which you can find below in the video description. That means, if you are larger, consider other options. Accountable isn't for you. What bothers me in terms of content and functionality is the asset accounting. You can record that. You also saw that I booked a camera, I booked a laptop, I set up a MacBook, and I can write off the whole thing. For small business owners, there are options for depreciation, such as special depreciation and the investment deduction amount, which are the best ways to engage in tax planning, and these cannot be considered in the bookkeeping here. So, Accountable simply does not have these options. You can still write your invoice in Accountable, manage your accounting, then simply take the income surplus calculation and use it. To transfer to Elster Online or Weiso Steuer, you can deduct this special depreciation or the investment grant, IAB, but that is more work, and if I am already building an all-in-one solution, then at least such options should be part of the functionality, and I would hope that Accountable will implement this in the future. And to be honest, and this is the third point, there are quite a number of cases for income tax, that is, the private income tax declaration, which Accountable does not cover. This means that you will probably have more work there as well, because you will have to somehow take the data from Accountable and then transfer it to another tool. This is still not a disadvantage compared to other software, because with other software you always have to transfer that data, but you should be aware of it right from the start. Therefore, make sure to check the restrictions regarding the income tax declaration. Include a link in the video description below, so check it before you book Accountable. And one more small limitation, Accountable is very user-friendly, to be completely honest. However, if you have already dealt with accounting in a more professional manner, meaning if you are an accountant or have actually worked with a more comprehensive professional tool in the past and generally know how accounting works in such software, then you do not need accountable. And then it can actually happen that you sometimes stumble over certain phrases or ways of doing things because the entire communication from accountable is designed for lay people to manage their own accounting and taxes. However, if you are already well versed in your field, you will occasionally search for things and simply cannot find them because they are named differently, because the whole thing is structured differently, and so on. Therefore, I must say that the results from accountable are accurate, but it is not recommended for professionals because you encounter issues while searching for certain functions which are typically structured differently in other accounting programs. This brings us to the advantages. I must honestly say that accountable is a great solution, but, and this is an important limitation, only if you fit into the customer profile of accountable. So if you are a sole proprietor, freelancer, or trader, perhaps taking advantage of the small business owner regulation, then accountable is the best all-in-one solution I know. In fact, I have really looked at it to the extent that in many companies I have worked for in the past, I always glanced a bit at accountable and observed how they actually solve the problem, how they actually do it. And if you fit into this category, ideally providing services such as web design consulting or being an affiliate, content creator, then this is a top solution for you, to be completely honest. Accountable is really optimized for a very specific customer group. And if you belong to the core target group, you will receive a solution that is truly very user-friendly. I like the tax estimation, I like the recommendations for business expenses, the tax tips. The AI assistant makes a very good impression in my opinion. The operation is very intuitive and there are many small automations. For example, there is also the feeling that the receipt recognition and the suggestion of categories are significantly faster in automation than, for example, in competitor solutions. In conclusion, if you belong to the target audience of accountable, I must say it is my favorite tool for accounting and taxes. There are many self-employed people who do not belong to the core target group, and you should take a look at this beforehand. And if you do not belong to the core target group of accountable, then you should better not use accountable because you will definitely be missing things. Do you have questions about accountable? If you have questions about accounting, taxes, and so on, feel free to leave a comment under this video. Even if you use accountable and have positive or negative experiences, feel free to write about them in the comments section. I am very curious about your experiences. I have been working with it, and I always play around with it and supported some clients who are using it. But I am curious about your experiences. And if you still need a bank account, a tax advisor, or anything else, or if you want to check out Accountable, you will find all these links below in the video description. I'm happy to link them for you again here. And now you could also just directly watch another video, this one or this one for example.